He sent from above, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. Psalm 18:16. The phrase, sent from above, establishes the divine origin of rescue. God doesn't delegate salvation to earthly agents, but intervenes from his heavenly throne. This direct involvement shows the value God places on his servants. He took me uses language of possession and claim. God doesn't just assist David, but takes complete ownership of the rescue operation. This verb suggests God grasping his servant and lifting him to safety. The divine grip cannot be broken by any opposing force. Drew me out of many waters employs the imagery of rescue from drowning. David's enemies surrounded him like floodwaters, threatening to overwhelm and destroy. The phrase, many waters, shows multiple sources of danger converging. Political enemies, military threats, and personal betrayals all combined to create an impossible situation. The verb drew pictures God reaching down to pull his servant to safety. This same word describes drawing water from a well or extracting something valuable from a dangerous place. God's rescue requires divine strength because human effort cannot escape such overwhelming circumstances. He delivered me from my strong enemy and from them which hated me, for they were too strong for me. Psalm 18:17. The word delivered emphasizes complete removal from danger rather than temporary relief. God doesn't just help David survive the attack, but removes him from his enemy's reach. My strong enemy acknowledges the formidable nature of opposition. David doesn't minimize the threat or pretend his enemies lack power. King Saul commanded armies, controlled resources, and possessed political authority that made him very dangerous. From them which hated me reveals the personal nature of the conflict. This wasn't just political disagreement, but deep-seated hatred that sought David's complete destruction. Hatred motivates enemies to pursue their targets. For they were too strong for me represents an honest assessment of the situation. David admits his inadequacy without shame, because this confession opens the door for divine intervention. Pride prevents people from seeking help, but humility activates God's power on behalf of his followers. They prevented me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my stay. Psalm 18:18. The word prevented means to confront or oppose with hostile intent. Enemies didn't wait for David to recover from previous difficulties, but attacked during his most vulnerable moments. The day of my calamity describes periods when multiple disasters strike at the same time. These weren't ordinary challenges, but overwhelming crises that threatened to destroy everything David valued. Enemies often time their attacks to coincide with natural disasters or personal tragedies. But the Lord was my stay, presents God as a supporting pillar that prevents collapse. When everything else crumbles, divine support remains solid and reliable. The word stay suggests both physical support and emotional stability during chaotic circumstances. He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. Psalm 18:19. The phrase, brought me forth, shows God's active role in moving David from confinement to freedom. This wasn't passive permission, but divine initiative that created new opportunities. Into a large place contrasts with the cramped circumstances of persecution. God doesn't just rescue his servants, but provides abundant space for growth. The large place represents expanded influence, increased resources, and greater freedom to serve God's purposes. He delivered me because he delighted in me, reveals the motivation behind divine rescue. God's delight in his servants drives his protective intervention. This delight doesn't depend on human perfection, but on the personal relationship with God established through faith. The word delighted suggests God's pleasure and satisfaction in his relationship with David. This divine pleasure motivates continued blessing and protection throughout the believer's life.